Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Welcome, everybody. Hello out there. I am so glad to be back. I was out for a little bit, so you got some recordings, but I'm here. I'm back. I'm live. I'm in the studio, and that means I can interact with you. So, isn't that fun? So, I know some of you have already been answering our question about how do you stay organized, and they're like, I don't. Is that an English word? I'm drawing a blank. Yes, that's fine. If this is you, don't worry about it. It is not uncommon for artists to not think of themselves as organized or literally not be organized because often it's sort of a brain thing. I don't want to like stereotype, but if you think outside the box, I was gonna say outside the backs. I don't even know what that is. Outside the box, outside of your general framework. If you're using abstract reasoning all the time, well, it might be hard for you to organize that, to like formulate a basic coherent thought. You might be floating out here in wispy land, which is what you have to do to come up with creative ideas. And so it's not uncommon for artists to struggle with this. So if that's you, or if you're not even sure why you would even care about being organized, like, blah, it sounds awful or boring. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that today. But before I talk about that, I do want to talk about AutoCrit. AutoCrit is where I'm from. Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm an instructor here at AutoCrit. I also do the live stream here. I do host a lot of the clubs. I'm all over the place. And AutoCrit is really all over the place in that it's a home for writers. We have our fully functional writer's desk that helps you plan and edit and write and perfect your story. We have our community. And of course, we also have our academy where we do workshops and courses. I said already, I'm an instructor there. I'm also somebody who works in the author services department because we'll do one-on-one feedback. And so you can submit things for us and we will take a look at it and we will give you direct feedback about it. But right now, we are in the middle of the Novel 90 challenge, and I see we already published that. Yep, in the chat. And you might be saying, well, wait a minute, Daniel. That's the Novel 90 challenge. And if you start in October, isn't it the Novel 60 challenge? What's going on? The way that we structured it is we were treating October as a lot of pre writing, planning if you're an outliner, etc. We're thinking of really hitting the drafting hard come November. So if you're just getting started, you can jump right on in and start drafting. Or maybe you're in the middle of a project already, in which case, awesome. Bring in that project you're in the middle of and let's finish it before the end of the year. The important thing about the Novel 90 challenge is that we are finishing something by the end of the year. And you might be like, well, what does that mean, finished? What it means is you would be willing to show it to somebody that you respect or would like the opinion of. You could think of an author you really would like or something if you have an opportunity to show it to them. That's what you're looking for, that kind of quality that you feel confident about. That's what we're trying to get to by the end of this year. You can do that. Your winner. And no, this is and yes, this is mostly for fun. We are not going to be super strict about it. However, we certainly would love to hold you accountable. And that's why, as part of the challenge, you get to come along with us, write a book in 90 days, and join a team. Now, I am the team captain or the team coach for the planners. Woo! Shout out to the planners out there. We also have Pantsers. Yes, Team Pantsers. Woohoo! Hello from Virginia as well. Um, as a pantser planning, what's that? Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. Planning and organization are not the same thing. So if you're like, I don't plan, this is going to be pointless for me. No, it's not. Just stay tuned, okay? Stay with me. And then of course we have plancers, who are people who are a bit of everything, don't really like labels. If that's you, if you're feeling rebellious, that will be Becca's team, and the pantser team would be Catherine's team. So we're there for you. In fact, if you join a team, you can even text us. I know, pretty cool, right? And so if you're just having a bad day and you're like, I'm feeling awful, we'll tell you, you know what? You can do it. Stay on course. And sometimes that's what you need. That might sound whatever you want to say, silly or maybe even self-condescending or whatever you want to say, self-deprecating. But no, we all need it. Especially as artists, we often feel a little bit lonely because we don't necessarily have other artists to talk to in our area, or direct conversation with in our region. And so to be able to communicate with one of the team captains, well, it can help motivate you. And again, our whole goal is that by the end of this year, you have something done. Wouldn't that be a great way to start 2025? I think so. And that's what we're trying to do. So, yes, join a team, pick a team, any team. And you know what? If you're not sure what team you are, join them all, join all the events. It's okay. You can figure out what kind of writer you are. Are you a planner? Home to Close the Raven. Yes, our mascot there. Or are you a pantser with our lovely emu there? Or the plancers with that fierceful fighting plant? Yes, yes, yes. So we want you to stay on track and get all of this done. And so if you joined us from the beginning, you should be getting ready for your writing phase. In fact, you might have already started it. If you were a pantser, you probably already did, because it's like, I don't really plan. I don't do a lot of pre-writing. That's fine. If you're a plotter or a outliner or a planner, you're probably getting started on writing now because you really had to shore up your story, right? Shore up your structure. Plancers, somewhere in the middle. But we're going to have a special countdown just to officially kick off the drafting month when we're writing our draft for our story. And then December, we're going to be editing all of this, and it'll help lead you through. And in November, we're going to do a lot of sprints and check-ins and all kinds of events to keep you on course. But yes, we will have a special kickoff event, and that's going to be coming up on Thursday. It's late night Halloween. So if you don't have any Halloween plans, or you work in a different time zone, in which case it wouldn't be Halloween night just yet, you can join us. It will be fun. All right. The point of this challenge is to have an opportunity to build writing habits. One of the things that we recommend doing to be successful: stop slowing yourself down with perfectionism. Allow your book to be terrible until you improve it. It's okay. It just needs to exist. Don't forget that. Turn off that inner editor, that critic. It's not helpful right now. We'll turn it back on later when we get to the actual editing phase. But for now, no, tell it to fly a kite. It doesn't know what it's talking about. I mean, I'm being a little facetious. The main thing you want to do with your inner editor is ask it, do you have anything really useful to say? Or do you just think this is bad because you're in a bad mood? And most of the time, your inner editor is just, I don't know, it's just terrible. What are you even thinking? The time? I don't know. Something like that. So, no, no, no. Get rid of that. Don't allow that to happen. All right. Let's move on. Don't just trash your writing chasing a word count, right? No, no, no. Don't do that. Do not don't don't just keep writing and writing and writing and writing in order to just get words on the page. No, that's not the best. That's not the best at all. All right. And ultimately, don't forget, this challenge is about you. Yes, it is. It's about you. All right. So, how to stay organized. Isn't this very important? You might be like, I am not a very organized person. Well, that's okay. Everybody can become organized. Everybody can be organized in their own way, right? And so why should you want to be organized, right? Why should you want to even concern yourself with such? Well, one way is that it reduces your stress, and it can help you from becoming overwhelmed, right? That is something I'm having. An, this banner is showing up here. How do I knock it down? Well, anyway, that's going to be our kickoff for the next one. So anyway, you can if you are just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, that's fine. But if you don't remember what you actually wrote already, right? If you don't remember what you put on the page, well, you're going to be very confused, right? You're going to be like, well, I don't know what I did or what I need to do or anything like that. And so by simply keeping track of some of what you're doing. That is one way of being organized, is just making sure you remember what it is that you did. That's a great way of reducing stress. Another thing you can do with being more organized is you can get more productive. You'll just be faster, right? If you understand what it is that you oh wait, here we go. Now I can hide it. Yay! I figured out the button. um, if you understand what it is you're doing, you obviously are going to be a lot faster, right? You are not going to bog yourself down thinking about things too much. Now, again, how organized you need to be is going to vary based on the writing process. But even if all you're doing as you're pantsing is simply writing down what you pantsed, I recommend doing that because, yeah, you're going to remember things and you're not going to get lost. And of course, this will help you spark creativity, right? It's helpful when you remember what it is that you wrote, right? And you're keeping track and you have all these elements, because what it does is it allows you to fly at a bit of a higher level from time to time. You might get stuck, right? And this is particularly true if you're like a pantser or something like that. You might get stuck. And if you have the ability to take a step back, then you will be able to jostle your imagination a little bit. So instead of just being in the weeds all the way, sentence level, no, no, no. We're taking a step back and we're seeing the broad picture. And that could be really helpful for sparking the creativity. And again, a great thing to be organized. You can also avoid losing work. Somebody mentioned that. I've done this, right? Now, the nice thing is, of course, AutoCrit itself does a lot of this for you, right? It does a lot of this uh not losing work because it's constantly saving, right? And it's constantly making versions, and it's helping you not forget, and you can move from device to device and things like that. So this is one of those things that we kind of have already taken care of you. But of course, if for some reason you are pulling your files out of crit, not particularly recommended, you definitely want to be organized about it, because otherwise, yeah, you can totally lose progress. You can lose entire days, weeks, months worth of work. Not a great thing, right? Another thing that organization can help you do is maintain some consistency. It can be difficult sometimes to remember, again, what it is that you actually wrote. And so the next time you bring up that character, you might be like, I don't know, do they have blonde hair? Do they have red hair? Do they have black hair? Do they have curly hair? What did it look like? And you might have to go searching for it, but you may decide, well, if I have to go research this, that's going to completely mess me up. I'm going to lose my momentum. So I'm just going to write something down, and then you'll forget to double check it, and then you'll have the character changing eye color 20 times in the book. So it often can be helpful to, again, keep notes, right? We're going to talk about that when we get to the actual tips of how you actually get organized. The other thing, that reason why you might want to be organized, is because it can aid you in collaboration, right? It's very important that you have the ability to share your work with others, particularly if you're a newer writer. Maybe you want feedback, maybe you want suggestions. Well, how are they supposed to help you if the threshold to help you is read my 90,000 word novel? That's a little bit rough. If you have something, there's a reason why agents and editors often look for outlines or things like that, right? Even if they want to read like just a segment of your book, maybe all you're worried about is like, I'm not sure if this scene hits. Well, are you gonna make them read your 90,000 word book in order to understand if that one scene hits? Hopefully not, right? Hopefully you can be organized enough to have a sense of what's going on, and then you can share notes, you can share outlines, you can share thoughts, and then you can say, all right, in context of everything that's going on, take a look at this scene. Does it make sense? Is it up to snuff? Etc. All right, so now that I've talked about why you might want to stay organized, I'm going to talk about how you stay organized, right? And so we have a physical workspace. This is, of course, a great way to stay organized. Is, do you have everything you need in your workspace to keep momentum going? right? Before you actually get started, maybe take a moment to get a little bit organized. Does your laptop have the power? Is your power actually on? Not that I've never started a live stream and realized that my power wasn't on and had to go hit the light switch or anything like that, right? Or a class, right? I mean, that can happen to you, of course, right? So take a moment. Do you actually have what you need to be productive? Um, do you have your cup of coffee that you're going to need, right? Do you have your snack? Um, if you eliminate a lot of these distractions, these things that you're either going to have to find later or you're going to think about, then, well, you're going to be able to stay the course. So if you get into that great momentum, if you get into that great zone, you can just keep it up. Of course, the other thing too is also like how comfortable are you writing? Are you in a comfortable sitting position? Are you, in comfortable clothes or whatever it is? Think about those sort of things. That is part of organization, right? Because what it does is it helps you organize your thoughts. Now, this can be particularly true if you come up with a pattern. There's a reason why a lot of people like a writing space, because what it is, they constantly go to it. You get a bit of a Pavlovian response, and it can be really beneficial for that reason. All right, let's move on here. Keeping it all in one place, of course, is the most beneficial thing you can do, which is one reason why the AutoCrit Writer's Desk is so beneficial, because you can, of course, keep it all in one place. We have ability, and I'll show you in a minute, ways to hold your files and your note cards and your outlines and your timelines and your inspiration board and all of that in one little spot. And so it's not in this program and that program on this drive, and everything like that. Yeah, just simply holding it in one spot is really helpful, because you don't have to go finding things as much, right? And that's going to be disruptive. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be all those things that we don't particularly love to be as artists, right? We usually like to get into a zone and have fun. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about files and whatnot is not just the physical space, but the digital space. And this is where naming conventions can be very, very helpful. Now, of course, within the AutoCrit Writer's Desk, actually, hold on. Let me stop just talking about the AutoCrit Writer's Desk and let me bring it up just one moment here. Inside the AutoCrit Writer's Desk, you can uh, organize your files through specific naming conventions. Some naming conventions we have is that we have projects and we have files. Now, projects and files are really just folders and files, basically, right? But we understand that often the way that people write, they think of their works in terms of a project, and then they'll have multiple drafts of a project. So, you can easily go to projects, create a new project. It's a new project folder, and you can call it, whatever it is you want, book number one or whatever. And then you can have maybe multiple drafts in that. But maybe that's not how you work. Maybe you generally just mostly save over your drafts, or you delete your drafts once you're done with them and you don't want all those many drafts. Okay, fair enough. You could do it as projects are like a series, right? It's really up to you how you handle it. Maybe the project is a book and every file is its own chapter. I know some people like that because it can make the reports run a little bit faster. I generally recommend throwing all of your chapters into a single file, or maybe splitting it up if it's an extremely long book. But a lot of our analysis and a lot of our tools really do work the best if you have the most amount of text in them. It might take a little bit longer, but it is going to give you more accurate results because, of course, it has more data to work from. So think about that. But also just think about something as simple as, are you naming the yeah, notebooks. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, it's true. They'll be scattered all over the house. I mean, that's what I used to do. I used to be a waiter, and I would, how you take orders on a little pad. I would like take orders, and then I'd have like the bottom of the pad to be like story ideas. And then I'd go back, and then at the end of the night, I'd have to like rip out the back pages and figure out, okay, which is which are the ones part of the story, and which ones go where. And it was very, very complicated. But at least I got it done. But one thing that would help are things like naming conventions, right? Instead of using one abbreviation in this page and this abbreviation in this page or whatever, keeping it consistent. And yes, keep your book title consistent. Keep projects consistent, right? If you come to the point where you have the what you call it, it's like the red-haired woman book, and then it's like, okay, cool, because you don't know the name of it. Well, eventually, if you decide the name is whatever, the glass lily or something, I'm just making something up. You might want to go back and rename the other ones. All right, glass lily early version or whatever, because otherwise, years down the road or months down the road, you'll be like, what in the world is this red-haired woman book? And you'll open up and you're like, oh, it's that book. And maybe you'll have to read a little bit before you figure it out. So yeah, naming conventions really helpful. It can and it just makes it easier to find things for sure. Also keep that in mind when you start to do note cards as well. You can well, I can bring that up here. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about note cards. Do. I didn't have an extremely organized plan to talk about organization because I wanted it to feel more authentic. I also wanted to be a little bit hypocritical because I think that's more authentic as well. All right, so I'm going to go into the note cards, and I like a little bit of organization. I did have that whole presentation plan. You could see the slides in the background. I just didn't have every little detail planned out. So yeah, so if you hit that little yellow button in the upper right, and by the way, because of Novel 90, anybody can access the note card features within the writer's desk. Isn't that snaz? I think so. Often it's only a pro benefit, but for now, yeah, you too can enjoy the lovely note board. But we have a couple of different note boards. But one thing is, and this is my series project. You've probably been watching the vlog I've been doing on Fridays. I have different things that I mention, right? And I put all these in things for book 4. And then I had this little scattered, and this is actually untitled. Well, I really shouldn't have done untitled. I really should have said things to edit because that's what it was. And see, then I wouldn't have to look down at all those notes like I just did and figure out what in the world I was doing. What were the point of all those notes, right? So consider this as you are organizing yourself. And the nice thing, of course, is the writer's desk does a lot of this for you. You don't have to think about it that much. You just have to, make your note board, give it a little cute little title, and then just be consistent as you add other ones. Try to make sure you pick something that is going to make sense to you. And, it's a bit like what they say, write drunk, edit sober. It does get a little bit like that when you go back to your work and you're like, what in the world was I doing? And so if you try to think about it from the standpoint of if nobody knew what this was, would it make sense? Those are the right kind of naming conventions to use because I can't tell you how many times you'll get back to something and you're like, I have no idea what I wrote for myself or why this was even here. What is going on here? All right. Yeah. See, note cards. I was organized, right? So, so note cards, of course, are really beneficial because you can use them for pretty much whatever you want in order to organize yourself. In that note card system, you can, of course, insert text like I had there. You can also insert pictures if you'd rather have that. You can arrange them into different colors. There's a lot of different options here. For some reason, my cursor seems to have disappeared on my computer, and I'm not sure why. Hold on. I'm trying to advance my slide. All right, here we go. And yes, you can use this as an inspiration and a mood board. Now, one thing the note cards can do is literally just help you stay organized as you write because maybe you don't do any of this in advance. You're a pantser, you just fly by seat your pants. That's fine. But if you keep track of things as you go, then you'll be doing well for yourself. So you could be like, all right, I've established this is whatever. This is set in the at the Grand Canyon. All right. So then you're going to write over somewhere. It's the Grand Canyon, right? And the setting and then you mention maybe a specific animal and you're like, I'm going to mention that over there, specific, and then you're like, what animals have I mentioned in the book? Bing, it's right there. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do a lot of research. It's all right there. So it's really helpful. And the other thing you can use note cards for is inspiration or mood boards. So maybe you're not sure exactly what it is you want to write. It's not like you're outlining. Again, I know a lot of you don't like outlining. If you do love outlining, of course you can use it for that. You can have all your beats and it's all beautiful. Mwah! I'm a planner. But if that's not you, it might be more just how do I feel, right? What kind of emotional reaction do I want to have to any of this, right? What comes to mind when I think about it? I'm just going to throw spaghetti at a wall. When I think of the Grand Canyon, what do I think of? You might think of specific kind of rock work, specific kind of things, etc., etc. All right. The other thing that you want to do is you want to draw a map, right? Um, I mean, at least you could think about it. Now, again, this is something you can easily put into a note card once you're done. And I don't mean do anything fancy. You could easily draw something just with a piece of paper and sketch it out. Or you could just bring up, classic paint on windows and just draw it out with the most crude of outline. It's not for anybody else's benefit. I'm not saying this is going to be the collector's edition, limited edition, you're going to sign kind of artwork. But what it can do is it can just help you remember, oh, that's on that side of the town. That's on that side of the town. That's on that side of the house. That's on that side of the house, right? It's really, really beneficial if you have any sort of locations where you're going to have characters traveling in locations, and it's going to matter. Characters relative to other locations are going to matter. Even if it's just the vaguest idea. It's like if it's a town and it's like, okay, well, I want to establish that this part of town is further away from this part of town and this is closer and things like that. And again, it's not anything fancy. So you're like, I don't draw. No, no, no. This is simply orientation, right? It is a reference so that you don't lose track of things later. All right. Actually, these are from last week. So while I go through these really quick, there we go. I'm going to catch up with everybody here. You did note cards for the whole book, but as you rewrite, the cards become less meaningful because the edits have downstream implications. Well, that is something you may want to consider. So, one thing you could do that could help you again stay organized is like, let's imagine that you plan your whole book, right? And you have it all outlined, but you know that you're going to adjust. So, you could actually go into the note cards and adjust them. Or like you said, maybe it's like, well, at a certain point, it deviates so much the note cards kind of become irrelevant. Then maybe what it is the note cards is more of a checklist. And so you could maybe start them as yellow or red or something like that. And then as you get to those beats, you go bing, it's green, bing, it's green, bing, it's green. And the idea is that, well, as you move down, yes, they might become less and less relevant. And then what you could potentially do is label them a different color. So maybe you start them as yellow and you flip them to green. And then if you decide to go a direction where you don't follow it anymore, you could flip it red. And the nice thing about that is maybe you decide by the time you get to the end of the story that something went amiss. Well, you can go back to your plan then and you can see, oh, this is where I really deviated. This is where I couldn't follow my plan anymore. And maybe you kind of lost the plot literally, right? There's a reason why there's that expression exists. It is something you can do. You can forget what it is that you were trying to do. Now, Catherine earlier today very nicely highlighted the fact that on Thursday evening at 11:30 p.m. Eastern, late Halloween nights, we will be doing our writing phase kickoff. Woohoo! So we are moving into the second month and we are doing that kickoff. So, yes, isn't that great? We do have some other events for you, though, in the AutoCrit world. If you're an AutoCrit Pro member, and of course, you can become an AutoCrit Pro member if you aren't one, some great deals right now. Like you can become one for $15 for 2 weeks. We have the Nonfiction Club making a memoir, right? And so we know a lot of you are not necessarily writing fiction, or maybe you write fiction, but you also write nonfiction. You also want to write about your life, or maybe somebody important in your life or in your community or something like that. Join us for that club because we're going to discuss certain things about memoirs. Of course, we do have a whole memoir course coming up later this year in November. Now, there was a fun event that we unfortunately had to delay. I did have some car trouble, and so I wasn't able to make it. So we do want to do it because these are so much fun. We are moving the Mystery Story Reading 5000 that was supposed to happen on Monday, and we are moving it to Thursday. So you can find that reflected in the calendar now. So Thursday at 3 p.m. Now, If you have no idea what this is, and the image might kind of tell you, what we do is we go through books that are in the back alleys of Amazon. They are not selling very well, and we wonder why. Well, you start reading them, and you generally figure it out. Truth be told, they usually have a fair amount of problems. Sometimes they're interesting problems. Sometimes they're humorously interesting problems. It's always a learning experience and it's very interesting. And we're all doing it in the spirit of adventure and fun. We understand that a lot of people just kind of put their work out there and they let the chips fall where they may. My hope is that even if one of the authors were attending, they would understand the spirit of the fun of which we enjoy it, because we've all been there. We've all written things that are maybe not up to snuff and things like that. I will say there are some things that are out there that truly seem like they probably were not really doing the due diligence. They might have been a little bit cynical to release it, just trying to get a cash grab or something, because it does seem very unlikely that they they would really want that out there otherwise. Mystery story rating 5,000 is fantastic. Yes, it is a lot of fun. And the thing is yes, we have a bit of a laugh, but we also do learn, because as much as we can talk about why you shouldn't do certain things or why you should do certain things, seeing it out in the wild is actually really beneficial. Now, if you would like extra sessions with me and an extra look under the hood of what goes into drafting a book, we recommend joining us for the Full Throttle 30-day novel writing course. Now, you might be like, well, is that we have a 90-day writing and a 30-day. The idea with Full Throttle is that in 30 days, you will have finished your draft, which is basically where we are, right? Now, maybe you already started on your draft, and that's fine. That means you'll be a little bit ahead of what I'm going to talk about. You'll probably get behind later because you're not going to write exactly the exact the exact beats at the exact moments. I the idea is that I pace with you, and so hopefully around the time that you're writing the beginning, I am talking about the beginning, or you're writing the middle, I'm talking about the middle. However, of course, you can always check out the recordings afterwards. And the nice thing is that we have a few different levels. We have our basic level, but we also have a VIP level, and that gives you the ability to get actual feedback, one-on-one feedback about your work. And it's a really great opportunity there. All right. And if you are signed up for the Novel 90 Writing Challenge, check your email, because you will be getting an email with a special coupon code to give you a significant discount off of the course. Because again, we're trying to make the challenge accessible for as many people as possible. So check that out. Yep. There we go. $100 off. Yep. Our team is emailing you. Check those emails. Yes. And the full list of all upcoming AutoCrit events can be seen here. Yes, you can go ahead and roll right over there. So before I head out, just wanted to open up the floor in case anybody had any questions about organization or things like that. Um, I certainly have enjoyed just the fact that Novel 90 has forced me into a bit of a schedule, a bit of an organization in that way. You will get it done, Daniel. And, I'll be honest, I've it's been an interesting situation for me, because I used to write a lot more than I do now. I do a lot more, analytical stuff, YouTube, teaching, and things like that. I haven't done as much just like actual sit down on a keyboard and write. And so it's been great to get back there and stretch those hands and start typing away. Because yeah, of course it's fun. Why did I start this in the first place, right? How did I end up here? It's because I love to do that. But I do. I will be honest. As much as I do love writing for myself, my favorite thing is to bring out the most out of artists. I love to coach artists, and I love to uh, take these wispy, abstract ideas they have and help them pin them down to earth and figure out what's going on. So I have to say, as much as am very excited to have a book done because of novel 90. I am so much more excited about all the novels that my planning team are going to have done. And yes, I'm looking at you, planning team. Don't let me down. By the end of it, we'll have a sense of which team fared the best. I'm curious. You can cheer on your own team, or you can throw your own team under the bus. I'm curious. What, which team do you think is going to perform the best in terms of getting to the end? I'm not entirely sure. We'll of course do a percentage because we do have more people in certain teams than others, so it'll be a percentage of success. I'm really curious to see what people think. Is there a value for saving drafts? Somewhat. This is something where you can really struggle because if you just save, obviously, if you saved every time you made any adjustments, you'd have billions of drafts, right? It's ridiculous. And I'm not saying you would do that, right? So then the question is where do you draw the line? Like you said, there's no really easy answer. The reason why I think a lot of people love to save a lot of drafts is because they feel like they're going to second guess themselves. Now, in my opinion, I don't actually save a lot of drafts because I just like to do acrobats without a net, I guess. What I'll do instead of that, so like instead of a whole draft, if I'm getting rid of a scene or something like that, or a chapter, or a really funny sentence that I like, but I don't think it belongs there, I will just cut it out and put it into my parking lot. So I have like a little note, I have a note board, uh, excuse me, and I can just pull them out and I can say, I don't like this for this book. And I can, and the nice thing about an AutoCrit is you can organize it, right? So you can have your little parking lot, note board, parking lot, and then the note itself can have a title, and then you can throw your text in. So you could throw in, didn't fit, but I like the character, or something like that, and then copy and paste the text in. And the nice thing is then maybe later you'll get stuck and you'll be like, Hmm. What did I think would be a good idea before? Oh, yes, that swamp monster. It didn't really fit in earlier. It kind of threw off the pacing, but now I can go and I can bring back Mr. Swamp Monster, right? And so then you go over there and you're like, aha, swamp monster. Yes, and then you can like copy paste back your work in and then tweak it, and you're like, beautiful. I actually have a whole couple of chapters that I threw out of the first book in my series and I threw into the second one. And it is much better for it, even though if you've been watching my series, I kind of rag on my second book. It's actually my favorite part of the second. Well, not my favorite part. It's one of my favorite parts of the second book. So, but in terms of like other things you might want to save a draft for, is like, yeah, a pretty substantial change is what I generally think is where it might make sense. Um, but I will say there is a temptation if you do that to just kind of hoard files, and that can be really confusing later. And then the other thing that can happen is if you're constantly second guessing decisions, you'll end up with analysis paralysis. So it's a little bit like, when you're drafting, Catherine even said, tape your delete key, tape your backspace key. Don't even let yourself do it. Sometimes you don't want to let yourself save all those drafts, because by saving all those drafts, you're going to be tempted to be like, well, I don't know. Did I say it better last time? I guess I did. I don't know. Sometimes it's better to just move on, right? And not do that. You create a folder for the book and keep earlier drafts, edits, cuts, and your own research articles. To a certain extent, I think that makes sense. I'm not saying never do it, but just be cautious about it. Ask yourself, is this really something that I'm going to use? Or at least stay kind of on it to where you don't have like 55. Because that can also be confusing in that, like, why did you even save it? You're not going to remember. You're not going to remember why you saved the fifth version, because you're not going to, and maybe you can have a naming convention where every time you make a change, or you'll note it down. So it's like character name changed, and then the next one it's like scene 5 was reset or whatever. Perhaps, but I mean, yeah, what are the odds you're going to do that? And then there might be multiple things that you changed. So my concern is with a lot of drafts is it'll just get confusing. It'll weigh you down. You'll have a whole bunch of stuff to wade through. So I'm a little bit cautious about doing too much of it, to be honest. But that's me. That may not be you thing. Sometimes it's just a peace of mind. You're like, well, I'll never go that bad because I just have to go back a little bit. Sure. What do you do when you are working on one thing and a completely different thing keeps bugging you? So, Uh, it could mean that you need to switch to the thing that's bugging you. However, that can be play whack-a-mole, right? Because for like, oh, I'm in the middle of drafting. Oh, I really need to fix this one thing. Okay, I'll fix that. All right, back to drafting. Oh, I really need to research this one thing. Okay, I'll do that. Now back to draft. Like you can end up on all these bunny trails, right? Or just flip, flop, flip, flip, flip. So sometimes you do have to tell that voice to just shut up. You're like, whatever. We're gonna do that later. One thing you can do to help yourself, because one fear you might have is I'll forget to do it later. Well, again, note board, make a list of things to do. That can be really, really helpful. All right. Okay. Well, I think I've caught up to the questions here. Love it. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad when you love it. I love it. What is that? McDonald's, right? McDonald's is not a sponsor of AutoCrit. We have no business relationship with that. Is there a word limit to what you can write for novel 90? No. We don't have a word minimum. We don't have a word limit. If you want your novel 90 to be more of a novella, if you want it to be flash fiction, you're like, I have just never finished anything in my life. I'm going to do it this time. And it's going to take you 90 days to write flash fiction because you're that much of a perfectionist, right? By all means, you have more done than before. But yes, in general, what we are thinking of, is at least 50,000 words because that's essentially the definition of a novel. So if we're going based on our terminology, it is called novel 90, right? So yes, think of it from that perspective. But like, what if you're writing an anthology, or what if you're writing, the point is are you writing? Are you writing? Are you participating? Are you coming to the check-ins? Are you feeling that momentum? Are you getting the attention of our team captains? All of that. That's what the Novel 90 writing challenge is mostly about. Yes, you can definitely tell it to shut up. What do I think are the biggest takeaways from today's session? Oh, that's a very fascinating question, because I think that's very much a your mileage may vary. I would say for me personally, the three things that would help me the most if I was being honest about things I should work on, naming convention is one. I probably harped on it a lot for that reason. I'm a little biased. I have a tendency to just be like, "Why is this here? What's going on?" I'm like, "What?" And if I just did better headers, if I just took a few extra seconds saving files, things like that, that would be one. Um, Another one is the writing space. I have a tendency to get started in writing because I'm like all on fire, and I will not just take care of basic needs like, have I gone to the restroom lately? Do I have food around? And the danger, of course, is that I'll get like on fire and I'll get into it. And sometimes I'm the kind of person that I'll just not eat and then I'll be very grumpy or moody or whatever, and my wife will come in and I'll be like, "Get out of here. I'm writing." And she's like, "You haven't eaten, have you?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't." And it's no, that's not good. I mean, you're not it's not healthy and you're not going to be writing efficiently. So yeah, you definitely, yeah, hangry, right? So you definitely want to keep basic needs, the basic creature comforts in mind. So yeah, that about the physical space. The other thing that I think can be really helpful that I neglect to do is kind of the whole inspiration board, because to some degree I'm like, that's cheesy, that's silly. But I've always found whenever I do it, I do find it truly inspirational, because I'll end up with moments where I'm like, I don't know, why am I even doing this? Isn't this whole book kind of stupid and stuff? Like, you get that voice in your head and it's really annoying. But then you'll look at your look board and you're like, no, it is cool. Look at that. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go to that place. I'm gonna have that person talk. I'm gonna have this kind of creature. And especially now with so many different tools at your fingertips, you can use AI for concept art. It can be a lot of fun and things like that. Why not? And then and slap it in there, right? It makes it really easy for you to visualize some things. And yeah, it can be really helpful because it can give you that cinematic feeling. It's like if this were a movie, right? You can even see it that way. And that can be really helpful when you get down in the dumps, which is bound to happen sometimes. So those would be the three things. So that's a great question. I appreciate that. In the meantime, I did mention all of those great events. Check them out. We always have some wonderful things going on at AutoCrit, not just this challenge, but so many other things. And I will look forward to seeing you later. Bye, everybody. You have a great day.